Welcome to First Chapter Friday. My name is Lucy, and the book that I am going to be reading the first chapter of today is called Frankie and Bug by Gayle Forman. This is Gayle Forman's first foray into middle grade books. Up until this point, she has written for a young adult audience. Frankie and Bug is the story of Bug, who lives in Venice Beach, California. The book takes place in 1987. She lives there with her mother and her older brother, Danny. And every summer, Bug spends the entire summer at the beach with her brother, Danny. She loves it. But this summer, that's not going to happen because Danny feels he is too old to be hanging out with his younger sister. He has other things to do. And so Bug instead, while her mother's at work, will have to spend the summer with her upstairs neighbor, Philip, and her downstairs neighbor, Hedvig. And she is not that excited about missing time at the beach. And then to add to that, someone comes to stay with Philip, who is Philip's nephew, Frankie. And at first, Bug does not like Frankie at all. They don't get along. Then she realizes that Frankie is pursuing the Midnight Marauder, who is this criminal who's been harming people all over the area. And Frankie and Bug decide that they are going to investigate this together. And in the process of that, they become closer and closer and closer until they really are best friends. So much so that Bug will agree not to go to the beach because Frankie does not like swimming. This book is a really moving story about people striving to be who they are. And as Frankie and Bug get closer, we learn something about Frankie. One of the great things about this book is that Bug just accepts Frankie for who he is, no matter what. The book deals with the harsh reality of homophobia. It deals with it in multiple ways. The book also deals with racism. Danny and Bug's father was Salvadoran, and he was never accepted by Bug's mother's family. In fact, Bug's mother was sort of cast out of her family because of who her husband was. The book also has strong trans representation. So here is the first chapter of Frankie and Bug. Rule number 4. 10 days before school let out, Mama announced that summer was canceled. She didn't say it straight out like that, but she might as well have. What she did say to Bug was, "What would you like to do this summer?" This was a dumb question. Mama knew what Bug wanted to do this summer, the same thing she'd done for the last 2 summers. Ever since Danny had persuaded Mama that there was no need to spend good money on the Y camp, which they both hated, Danny quietly so and Bug noisily, now that he was old enough to watch them both all summer, for free. "You can buy a new car instead," Danny had said. Clever of him, Bug thought, because Mama was always complaining about the Datsun and its busted air conditioner. So, after very elaborate negotiations with Philip and Hedvig, their upstairs and downstairs neighbors, who each sometimes watched Danny and Bug, and yet another consultation with Kip, the always sunburned lifeguard who manned Tower 19, Mama had agreed to let them spend the summers alone. With conditions, she said. Conditions, Bug had soon discovered, was another name for rules, but conditions sound nicer. Mama typed the conditions onto a piece of thick, fancy paper she used at her job at the mayor's office. Then she made Danny and Bug both sign it. This, she explained, turned conditions into a contract. The contract promised Bug and Danny would: 1. Always go to Tower 19 and check in with Kip. 2. Always swim together if they went in past their knees. 3. Never touch so much as a toe in the water if the riptide flag was up. 4. Always stay together. Rule number 4 was typed up in just the same way as the others, but Mama repeated its importance so often that Bug understood it was the most important one of all. Bug was not generally fond of rules, even when they were called conditions, but this one, the idea that she and Danny must always, always stay together, well, she liked that one just fine. It made her feel safe. The list had been taped to the refrigerator that first beach summer and all that following fall and winter. In the spring, when Mama was doing her big clean, she had taken it down, but Bug had retrieved the paper from the trash and hung it back up. She told Mama it was because she might forget the rules this coming summer, But the truth was, the list had become a promise. the promise of summer. For almost 3 years, the list had stayed on the fridge, fastened into place with a ladybug magnet. So when, in the waning days of 4th grade, Mama asked what Bug wanted to do for the upcoming summer, the answer was obvious. "I want to go to the beach," Bug told Mama. Mama got a funny look on her face, which in turn gave Bug a funny tickling in her stomach. Mama called this the gut voice and told Danny and Bug to listen to it. But Bug didn't want to listen to her gut voice because what it was saying, even before Mama said, "I think we might need to change it up this summer," was that summer was about to be canceled. Why do we have to change it up? Bug wasn't entirely sure what changing it up meant, but she didn't want to ask, lest she look babyish. That was Danny's favorite insult as of late, and there was no way she would prove it true. "It's just that Danny," Mama stopped herself. Daniel, that's what Danny wanted to be called now, needs a bit of space this summer. Bug had been hearing a lot about Daniel's need for space these past few months. First, early in the spring, Danny had told Mama that he didn't want to go to the magnet school he and Bug had both attended since kindergarten. This coming fall, he would be attending Venice High School. A few weeks after that, Mama had taken Bug out for ice cream on the Santa Monica Pier and told Bug she was getting her own room. For a brief second, Bug had thought they were moving to one of those big houses with wall-to-wall carpeting and grassy backyards with pools, like the one her friend Beth Ann lived in. But then why would Mama be taking her out for ice cream to deliver good news? Ice cream was for bad news. The bad news was this. Bug was being moved out of the biggest bedroom she and Danny had always shared and into a tiny alcove next to the bathroom that Mama had sometimes used as an office. It was too small to fit a bed and a dresser and desk, so with Hedvig's blessing, she was their landlady, as well as their downstairs neighbor. Mama and Philip built Bug a sleeping loft. Bug did like the loft. It had a wooden ladder, and her window looked out onto a big magnolia that made it feel like she was sleeping in a treehouse. But even if she liked the room okay, that didn't mean she wanted it. No one had asked if she wanted it. And worse, Danny got to keep the biggest room, instead of switching with Mama, who had the medium-sized room. It just wasn't fair. Bug had complained to Mama about this, which was a big mistake. One thing about Mama was that she didn't give two hoots about fair. And now Daniel's need for space meant that Bug's summer was canceled. "It's just that Daniel," Mama was explaining, "has babysat you for the past few summers." "Babysat?" Bug was offended. "Danny doesn't babysit me. In summer, we go to the beach. That's what we do." "Well, this summer, we're going to have to figure out something else for you to do." School had yet to let out, but Bug could feel the summer slipping through her fingers like sand at the beach, which she would not be going to. She wanted to cry. Bug loved the beach, and the 3 months she got to spend there made all the bad parts of living in Venice, like her pretend bedroom and hearing gunshots at night and having to sit on a bus 2 hours a day to go to a good school and never having friends sleep over because nobody's parents wanted them to sleep in a place where gunshots went off at night, worth it. Bug loved everything about the beach. The way the brisk water made her toes go numb, the way the drying salt made her skin feel tight, the way tropical tanning oil smelled, and the way the sand sounded when you laid your head against it. She even loved the things about the beach other people hated, like how salt water stung her scratched mosquito bites, or how the sand got everywhere. And she meant everywhere. In her sheets, her shoes, in the crack of her butt. Mama couldn't take that away from her. She just couldn't. "I don't want to figure something else out," Bug cried. "I want it to be like the other summers." Mama shook her head. "Daniel is 14. He wants to hang out with friends his own age. I think that's fair." "Fair?" Bug scoffed, feeling the heat in her earlobes, which was how she knew she was about to lose her temper. "What do you care about fair? Because wasn't Mama the one who always told Bug, life isn't fair. The most you can hope for is that it's just." Mama put a hand on Bug's shoulder. "I understand you're disappointed." But Bug was more than disappointed, because in that moment, she suddenly understood what Daniel's need for space really meant. It meant space away from Bug. The realization made tears spring to her eyes. She blinked them back. She wasn't a baby, she was 10. But Mama saw. She stroked Bug's cheek, a gesture that made her feel even sadder, which in turn made her madder. She stomped her feet and balled her fists, not even caring how immature this made her look. I know you're upset. I promise you'll have a fun summer. Mama took a breath. At camp. No way. No how. I'm not going back to the Y camp. Y camp was the worst. You spent days inside a moldy smelling gymnasium, making lanyards or shaping clay into pots that never kept their shape. When you did go swimming, which was only twice a week, it was at an indoor pool. It was the kind of thing Philip would call a travesty. I'd rather stay with Hedvig, Bug said, not because she wanted to spend the summer in their landlady's apartment, but just to show how little she wanted to attend the Y camp. Mama put on her thinking face. If that's what you want, I'll ask. She paused. Maybe you can stay some afternoons with her and others with Philip when he's not working. That wasn't what Bug wanted. Hedvig was okay, but her apartment, which took up the ground floor of their building, was full of junk, and all Hedvig did all day was watch soap operas. Philip's apartment, which took up the top floor of their triplex, was much neater, and Philip, when he was home, did much more interesting things, like make collages out of old-time magazines with Bug, or play songs on his baby grand piano. But neither Philip nor Hedvig would take Bug to the beach. And the beach was the only place she wanted to spend her summer. Can't I go to the beach by myself? Bug asked. I'd check in with Kip and only go up to my knees. The thought of not being able to dive headfirst into the waves made Bug sad, but not as sad as sitting at home all summer. She would show Mama she could compromise. I'm afraid not. But you let Danny go alone with me. Daniel's a boy, Mama said. What's that got to do with it? Bug could swim just as strong as Danny. She could stand in cold water just as long as Danny. She wasn't one of those girls who was scared of sand crabs or attacking seagulls. A lot, Mama said. You're only 10. I'll be 11 soon, and Danny was only 12 when we started going to the beach ourselves. You'll be 11 in February, Mama reminded her. And I know 2 years doesn't seem like much, but there's a world of difference between 10 and 12. Mama shook her head. I'm sorry, Bug. You can't go alone. I won't be alone. I'll have Beyond and Dwayne and Randy and Zeus. These were Bug's summer friends, people she didn't see too much during the regular year when school kept her too busy to spend much time on the boardwalk, but whom she saw every day as part of her and Danny's beach routine. I'm sorry, Mama repeated. No, you're not, Bug shot back, because if you were, you wouldn't be ruining my summer. And then she could hold it no longer. She burst into blubbering, babyish tears. I'm sorry, sweetie, Mama repeated. I'll try to redeem your summer. Bug thought these were just empty words, but a week later, when Mama told her that some nephew of Philip's was coming to spend the entire summer in Venice, Bug understood, for better or for worse, whether she liked it or not, that this was her summer's redemption. And that is the end of chapter 1. Where you get introduced to the upstairs neighbor and the downstairs neighbor. I love a story that sort of has a found family in it. And it's also a great book about friendship at any cost and really becoming sure of who you are. So I highly recommend Frankie and Bug by Gayle Forman. Thanks for joining me.